classical music and hip-hop collide, you get Black Violin. On this week's Spotlight Music series, we want to welcome violinist Kev Marcus, founding member of the duo Black Violin. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Both you and your partner Will B are classically trained instrumentalists. Tell us a little bit more about you becoming a musician and where you found your inspiration in music.
Well, Will and I, we met in high school in orchestra class many years ago, and first day of high school, and we were studying classical music, but we grew up in the 90s and we would always listen to hip hop after class. So we'd play, Bach in second period and listening to like Biggie or Wu-Tang or Mary J or whatever on the way to third period. So we had this high level of kind of classical study, but we were immersed very much, like sagging pants and the way we talk, everything was hip hop. So we kind of took the classical really far. I got full scholarships to college, but the hip hop side of us always kind of pulled us. And I noticed very early on that, because I don't look like a normal violin player that you would see, I noticed that people would look at me differently when I tell them that I play the violin. And, they would just be like, wow. Because a violinist, when you think of a violinist, it's almost like a brain surgeon or like a rocket scientist. It seems like it must be very difficult to do it. So people always looked at me different. So I love that idea. And then Black Violin is really just sort of the sonic culmination of how do we sound different, but do it in a way that people aren't expecting, but we make it digestible. So we play classical music in a really very classical way, but we have really hard-hitting beats underneath it that make it this vibe and this energy. So whether you're into the classical or you're into the hip-hop, it's sort of, we give you a little bit of everything.
There's something for everyone. I've listened to your music myself. Before we knew we were doing this interview, I've heard of Black Violin. I've listened to your music. It's beautiful. The way you meld the two together really is beautiful. It's not like two separate things that you just stick into one piece. They relate to one another, the beats and the violin and the viola.
Yes, I mean, that's the point. I think that we all think classical is sort of this old art form, but classical, it truly informs all art forms that come after it, whether it's jazz, hip hop, bebop, R&B. So we just find the similarities in it and we pull it out and highlight it from that Drake song, or that Cardi B song, and then we blend it together in a really interesting way so that, at a concert, somebody may be sitting there, a little kid sitting there, and they're listening and they kind of hear this Cardi B beat, and then their mother's sitting there next to them and they hear Mozart because of the strings, and they're both enjoying the same song, but they're interpreting it differently. And that's sort of the interesting thing about Black Violin.
Well, it certainly resonates with audiences everywhere and critics alike, because you are Grammy nominated and you have come out with quite a few albums, one of which you were nominated for the Grammy. You released one in 2020, and that was a big year for you as well. Can you tell us a bit more about what you accomplished in 2020 when all the rest of us were shut down?
Well, for 2020, that was the year we got nominated for our album Take the Stairs that we put out in 2019. But then while we were kind of shut down, right here in this studio in my house, we recorded a holiday project called Give Thanks. And the idea was kind of my late father, every time I would talk to him, at the end of a conversation, I'd say, bye, Dad, or peace. And he would always say, give thanks, son. He would always say that to me. So we thought of we want to make a holiday project. What do we want to call it? And we just said, well, it spreads across all religions, just the idea of being thankful and grateful for what you have. So we created an album called Give Thanks, and we finally had a chance to tour it last year, and we're touring it again this year. And it's awesome. It's like a holiday project with the vibe. We wanted to make a holiday album that you could listen to in July. And we think we kind of came off with that, and it kind of came out that way. And to be nominated for a Grammy right before we released it was awesome.
Congratulations on that. And
Thank you.
Charleston audiences are giving thanks because you're going to be making a stop here. In fact, you're going to be performing at the Gilliard February 11th. So people can go out, get their tickets. And you're going to be touring all the way up until early June. 55 cities, is it?
55 cities, 66 shows by June 1st. So
incredible. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to hear a piece from you. In fact, this is a fantastic piece. It's called Show Off. after the break. Don't go anywhere.